Love, family, and cracks beneath the surface. The nurse who tried to stage the perfect murder, Part 1. It was the early hours of November 9th, 2005, in Robinson, Texas, a small, tight-knit town just outside Waco. Normally, mornings are quiet and uneventful. But that day, peace was shattered when a frantic 911 call came through. On the line was a woman whose shaky voice carried terror and urgency. Something terrible had happened inside her home. That single call would trigger an investigation that stunned the community, tore apart a family, and revealed a heartbreaking story of love, betrayal, and tragedy. This is the case of Darlene and Keith Gentry, a couple whose marriage, once full of promise, would end in devastating loss. Darlene's early life. Darlene Gentry was born on November 2nd, 1974, in Central Texas. She grew up the middle child among three sisters, remembered as lively, ambitious, and effortlessly charming. At school, she was a social favorite, voted prom queen, and nicknamed the Texas Beauty Queen. With big dreams, she pursued dental assisting before later training as a nurse. Keith Gentry. Born the same year, Keith Gentry was steady, dependable, and kind. He studied drafting and welding, worked as an engineering assistant, and earned a reputation as a man who valued family above all else. A love story. When Darlene and Keith met, their bond was instant, though they briefly separated in 1997. Fate brought them back together. By 1999, they were married, ready to build a life side by side. Building a family, they settled in Robinson, right next door to Keith's parents. Soon they welcomed three sons: Chase in 2001, Cody in 2004, and Kate in 2005. From the outside, they seemed picture perfect. But behind closed doors, cracks were forming. Financial pressures mounted. Arguments grew. Friends noticed the distance. Yet no one could predict the dark turn that lay ahead. From the outside, Darlene and Keith looked like the perfect couple. A dream home, three beautiful children, and supportive families on both sides. But behind closed doors, cracks were forming, and soon, those cracks would turn into something far darker than anyone could have imagined. To be continued in Part 2. The morning that shattered everything. The nurse who tried to stage the perfect murder, Part 2. At 6:11 a.m. on November 9th, 2005, a distressed Darlene called 911. She told the dispatcher she had found her husband gravely injured. Their back door was open, guns appeared missing, and Keith was in bed, covered in blood. Paramedics rushed Keith to the hospital, but he had been shot in the head. On November 11th, 2 days later, Keith Gentry died. A stage scene. Investigators quickly spotted inconsistencies. The guns weren't stolen. They were placed neatly outside. Only someone familiar with the home could have accessed the locked cabinet. And Darlene, a trained nurse, hadn't attempted CPR. Even her 911 call seemed strangely calm. Most damning of all, latex gloves with gunshot residue and a spent casing were discovered in the kitchen trash. The question became unavoidable. Had Darlene staged a break-in? Motive and arrest. Digging deeper. Investigators discovered Keith's life insurance policy worth up to $750,000. With financial strain mounting, the motive was clear. On November 28th, just 19 days after the shooting, Darlene was arrested for murder. But in a shocking twist, Keith's parents posted her bond, standing by her side, convinced she was innocent. Then came a discovery that would change everything. The murder and suspicion. Investigators thought they had enough. The stage break-in, the shell casing in the trash, and a massive life insurance policy. But then, a strange request about a rural pond would take the case in a direction no one could have predicted. To be continued in Part 3. The pawn that told the truth. The nurse who tried to stage the perfect murder, Part 3. After her release, Darlene approached a landowner about buying property with a pond, saying it would be a peaceful memorial for Keith. But soon, she returned with a strange request, asking if the pond could be filled in. Suspicious, The landowner alerted authorities. When investigators searched, they found a .22 caliber revolver, the likely murder weapon. The trap. To confirm their suspicions, detectives staged a test. Pretending to prepare to drain the pond, they waited. Surveillance cameras captured Darlene herself wading into the water, searching desperately for the weapon she believed was still hidden. That footage sealed her fate. Trial and sentencing. In 2007, prosecutors presented the gloves, the insurance motive, and the incriminating video. The jury deliberated just 5 days before finding her guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 60 years in prison, with parole eligibility in 2037. Aftermath. Keith's parents gained custody of the boys. They have not seen their mother since. Keith Gentry is remembered as a devoted father who gave up career opportunities for the sake of his family, a man whose life ended not at the hands of a stranger, but through betrayal at home. That is the tragic story of Keith and Darlene Gentry, a marriage that began with love but ended in heartbreak and murder. Trial and aftermath. Today, Darlene sits behind bars, still proclaiming her innocence. But for Keith's family, the scars of betrayal run deep. Was this truly the act of a desperate woman under pressure, or the cold, calculated plan of a wife who thought she could commit the perfect murder?